And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my wrist to show you this. And if I bend my wrist over, flex my wrist over like so, I'm now actually getting a little bit of pain and discomfort in the back of it. Because the signal that comes from here is damage or the potential for damage. That signal passes along the nerves in my arm and comes up into my neck. So I'm now going to swap hands, and I'm going to just turn side on just for a moment. So as you can see me side on, my hand represents the way that we're looking at the brain. This is the frontal part of my brain here. This is the top part, cerebral cortex up here, and the back part of my brain here. And this is Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain, and I'll just come back straight on so you can see it. And I'll just peel the kind of top layers of my brain off, because I want you to look at this middle area here. This is the area known as the limbic system. This is the area that will contribute a lot of aversive emotional response to incoming sensation, to incoming senses, whether it's what we see or hear or taste or touch or smell, or indeed this signal coming up my brain stem, my spinal cord into my brain stem, into the base of my brain, which is signaling that I might have damage or the potential of damage in my left wrist. So this limbic area, don't have any conscious control over at all. This is an area of the brain that is purely non-conscious. And two of the things that this area of the brain contributes most are fear and uncertainty. And for many of us, fear and uncertainty about pain or our well-being are two of the biggest stresses that we actually have. So I'm just going to fold my brain back together again. So my signal coming up my spinal cord of damage or the potential of damage comes into my brainstem, into an area called the basal ganglia. This area has a really fast internet link to my limbic system. So even though I don't ask it to send the signal to the limbic system, this limbic system, my amygdala in particular, always gets the opportunity to comment on these incoming sensations. The signal is then passed up to an area of the brain called the thalamus, which is like a relay station. And the thalamus literally calls up to the front part of the medial part of the frontal cortex and says, I'm getting a signal of damage or the potential of damage in his left wrist. The front part of my brain goes, well, there's no blood coming out of it. I can't see anything. There's no cues in the context of this room that says we've damaged it. So the next thing it does is it talks to records, memory of pain, which is back here in my parietal lobe. So the frontal part of my brain turns to my parietal lobe and says, hello, yeah, terrible day, isn't it? Look, I'm getting a signal of damage or the potential of damage in his left wrist. What have you got on record about previous injuries to the wrist? The parietal lobe taps on his keyboard and goes, well, no, nothing much. So the front part of my brain says, right, there's nothing obvious going on in the context of my environment here. There's no cues that are telling me what's going on. There's not much record of damage or the potential of damage in the wrist. So the processing gives me some pain in my wrist to warn me that if I sit like this for too long, I may damage it or I may end up with persistent pain. But as soon as I move my wrist back to flat, that discomfort goes away. So that's how the brain and the mind process incoming information and turn it into the sensation that we know as pain.